The Jabberslythe has to be hands down one of the ugliest units in the game, but what it lacks in beauty it certainly makes up for in performance. It's of course a Mortis-style beast with an anti-infantry focus. Does have this nice Mortis aura. This one in particular is the Regiment of Renown. Today, this replay from Qualiduck. I am officially back from my honeymoon, and hoping to get some content for you guys on the new hotfix, which is nice of Creative Assembly to release a few successive hotfixes and see... let's see how they go. In particular, this last hotfix did introduce supposedly a change to help units not drop attack orders so much, which mechanically in battles is something that is the bane of all of us. So hopefully that actually takes effect. Anyway, back to the Jabberslythe. It's got this vortex here, the Searing Bile Blood. I believe this is special to the Regiment of Renown. We'll check that after the fact, but gives a little bit of extra burst damage on top of the regular damage aura, which is leadership conditional, but is kind of your standard AoE damage aura. Of course, decent splash attacks with anti-infantry as well. Not the highest weapon strength, especially when you compare it to something like the Incarnate Elemental of Beasts, which is on the opposite side here for Kislev. Yeah, also has its AoE damage aura, which is not leadership conditional. But yeah, same damage scaling, 8 to 16 damage in an AoE, which is pretty decent. Let's take a look at the rest of the builds now. We've got Morgr the Shadowgave here, we've got Butchers of Kalkengard, and a front line of Zangors, Lore of Death, Bray Shaman, looking for that sweet Fate of Buna. Yeah, no Spirit Leech, just straight Fate of Buna, and then a bunch of Centaurs with great weapons scattered around. These are excellent choices against any heavy cavalry matchups, as they tend to trade very well with mid-tier shock cavalry like Empire Knights or Winged Lancers, specifically in this matchup. As for Kislev, they've got some Kossar Spears, Armored Kossars, looks like some Ekshina Ambushers as well for a little bit of anti-armor, Ice Guards for some Frostbite, and Oath Brothers of Tor backing up the Incarnate Elemental Beast Constantine here, with a Lore of Tempest, Frost Maiden, Blizzard, and Hailstorm, so looking for some AoE damage. More Kossar Spears shoring up the back line. And already the Zangors are going to be advancing here, clashing with the lines of Kossars. And it looks like the Incarnate Elemental Beast is going out to meet... No, actually, just kidding. It charges into the Zangors rather than charging into the big boy here. We're going to see a bombardment get dropped from the Kislev caster. We'll do some decent damage. And the Kislev focus could potentially be quite dangerous for the Jabberslythe, but right now it looks like, yeah, only the Akshinas and the Wolfhearts here. And even the Ice Guard not necessarily focused directly on them, as the Beastmen rush does kind of impact across all phases of the battle. Nice full surround here. Both Brothers of Tor just getting creamed, double-teamed by Centaur's great weapons. They're not going to be able to get much healing from Constantine if they're not peeling out soon. Jabber's definitely taking some damage from these different archer units focusing fire, but right now the Incarnate Elemental Beast does get a nice terror out in the front line. It's fighting against the Butchers of Kalkengard there, but given how low, you know, the Jabberslythe already is getting, I'd probably detach the Incarnate Elemental Beast to go fight this thing, especially if you unify with the Oath Brothers of Tor, get Constantine in there, all together, try and take it on. Instead, the Oath Brothers go and fight the Butchers. They're already popping Dire Blood, which is not great. Incarnate Elemental Beast is also fighting Morgr, which is not necessarily where it wants to be. At massive weapon strength, it's quite strong, but with the anti-large bonus, it could be helping to finish off that Jabberslythe, which in particular the animations for the Jabberslythe do make it quite good against infantry, as you can kind of see it like dives around and gets these big sweeping splash attacks. Makes it very tough for infantry to fight it in melee, and it also means that kind of vile diarrhea that it leaves on the ground in terms of its AoE damage vortex can get kind of broadcasted around various areas of the battle. Again, the Incarnate Elemental Beast could come and try and shut this down, and in general there's a lot of large threats kind of making mincemeat of the Kislev backline that need dealing with. The Incarnate Elemental Beast really should be fighting these guys, not wasting his time so much on Morgr. But as it is right now, Butchers of Kalkengard, Centaurs are able to collapse most of the backline units here. Kossar Spears, Akshina Ambushers. The Ambushers is an interesting one if there's one matchup. I mean, the ROR I kind of understand for the net, but I'd probably have cut the other one out and just taken more cheap troops. Hard to say, really. Maybe even more ice guards with glaives, given they can defend themselves a little bit better against all this Beastmen large, but yeah, it is quite a brutal situation for Kislev, as a lot of their support units just get eaten up. Eventually, the Incarnate Elemental Beasts will be forced to fight the large units of Beastmen anyway. They do quite a good job of it, it must be said, or it does rather, routing off those Centaur Great Weapons, doing some nice damage to puts Falcon Guard as well. But of course, the Jabber has been below half HP for a lot of this battle and is still just, yeah, an absolute menace. Looks like Bujalish is going to actually throw in the towel there, which is understandable. But yeah, I think just not that the Incarnate Elemental Beast necessarily was bad per se. I mean, it got pretty close to paying for itself, but just the timing of it, maybe if he had been able to actually rout off the Jabber Scythe, could have preserved some of his infantry stopping power. Although Jabber Scythe itself, I mean, 10,000 damage dealt is probably the highest individual unit here, but still a pretty well constructed build from Qualaduck in order to kind of counter Kislev. You've got some good anti-armor options. It's a little bit narrow. I would be a little bit worried about maybe a wider Kislev build. But, yeah, it's an interesting one for sure, sort of the infantry composition conundrum, because, yeah, for Kislev, I almost think you want to go a little bit wider with just lots of Kossar Spears and Armored Kossars. I'm not really sure, though. The Incarnate Elemental Beasts on paper feels like a good choice here to try and counteract some of the Beastmen's monsters. Both Brothers of Tor, again, I don't hate the idea, just here they were swarmed and outnumbered pretty heavily by those Centaur Great Weapons. The Sons of Goros in particular get some really nice value, but really all the Centaur Great Weapons managed to pay for themselves. Yeah, Centaur, or Bestgors, sorry, they should be priced more like Bestgors probably, but the Zangors, so cost-effective, very good in this matchup. Probably a little bit too good. They could probably go up to like 850, maybe bring the Great Weapon Bestigors down to like 950 to be more of a proper variant, rather than being so far difference in price, given they're very similar in terms of stats. But it's a discussion for another day, perhaps, or, yeah, you know what, let's just get straight into it. So, Bestigor overpriced, and Zangors are underpriced, so let's go ahead and take a look here at the Beastmen's roster. And just see, yeah, at 700, these guys are significantly undercosted, I think, for how good they are, especially for Beastmen. 1050, though, is too high for Bestigor herds. So again, I think you could kind of normalize these a little bit. Maybe give the Zangors like 800 cost, and then make the Bestigor herds like 900 or 950, something like that, since they are essentially just a Great Weapon variant without the barrier, right, of Zangors. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I think a lot of Great Weapon units, and I talked about Black Orcs in a recent video, a lot of these kind of lower elite tier Great Weapon units could probably use some help, Bestigor herds being one of them. I mean, we've seen recent buffs to like Great Swords. Again, I talked about Black Orcs, even some of the Elven elite infantry. Of course, Ryder Rohan will constantly tell me and show me screenshots of video of replays with Swordmasters doing their thing. They can, certainly, but they're a little bit expensive. I honestly think, like, Swordmasters, Phoenix Guard, if we look at Dark Elves, like Executioners, Black Art of Nagaron, you could probably give, like, all these units, like, minus 100 cost, honestly, and they'd probably be still not totally, like, viable in a lot of situations, but it would certainly help them be more viable in more situations. And, you know, cost-based cap weights for domination is also something that could help elite infantry find more of a place in that game mode. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. You guys just let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.